To save her first love, my wife trapped me in the same day for 1,763 days. My wife is a time traveler. After her first love died, she began overdrawing her own life force to violently turn back time, vowing to change history and save him. What she doesn't know is that every time she travels, my consciousness goes with her, snapping back into my own body at that exact moment. After the 1,763rd time loop, my wife was in despair. "Ethan, I've tried so hard. Why can't I save you?" Standing beside her, I spoke with cold indifference. "You've looped time 1,763 times. I've been with you for every single one. The fact you still haven't saved him, your incompetence is physically painful to watch." Russell. The covers beside me were suddenly thrown back. Sarah shot up from the bed, her expression frantic as she scrambled to get dressed. June 10, 2024, 7:21 a.m. Looking at the bedside clock, my heart was as still and dead as stagnant water. The truth is, I have lived this day 1,763 times. My wife, Sarah, is a time traveler with the incredible ability to rewind time. For some reason, every time she does it, my consciousness is uncontrollably dragged along, forced back into my own body from that moment. Her first love, Ethan Vance, is destined to die tonight. Ever since it first happened, she has been frantically rewinding time, swearing she would save him no matter the cost. This is her 1,763rd attempt. "Honey, I have to go in early for work today, some overtime. I won't be home for dinner." These are the words she says to me after every single loop. I could recite them in my sleep. After this line, Sarah will finish dressing, walk back to the bed, and place a light kiss on my forehead. Sure enough, the thought had barely crossed my mind when Sarah, having straightened her collar, walked over and leaned down. But this time was different. Pushed her away. "Ethan is at the diner on North Prospect Avenue. You should hurry." After accompanying her this many times, I have Ethan's entire daily schedule memorized. Sarah, however, had no idea. She just stared at me, stunned. How did you?" She wanted to ask how I knew, but she caught herself and quickly changed her story. "What does his location have to do with me? I'm going to the office." Still lying. I sighed. "If you can't let Ethan go, why do you even bother lying to me?" After enduring so many time loops with her, my spirit has gone completely numb. What little love and patience I had left for her was ground to dust by the endless repetition. "What nonsense are you spouting this time?" Sarah glared at me. "How many times do I have to tell you? Ethan and I are just friends, nothing more. Can you please stop thinking such filthy, disgusting thoughts? Not everyone is cheating on you, you know?" I met her gaze but said nothing. Over the course of these 1,763 loops, the definition of friend has become hopelessly blurred. A dirty mind sees dirt everywhere. "I'm not wasting my breath explaining it to you." Sarah snorted in anger and stormed out of the room. A moment later, the front door slammed shut. I lay in bed, staring blankly at the ceiling. If Sarah can't save Ethan, she will never give up. She'll just keep looping, burning through her own life force with each attempt. And I will be forced to follow her into this endless purgatory, to suffer and struggle alongside her. I have to do something, not for the dying Ethan Vance, and certainly not for the laughable mockery our love has become. I have to do this for myself. I threw on a light shirt and left the house. June in Rivorton had brought the start of a long, intermittent rainy season. A cool morning breeze carried a light drizzle against my face, chilling me slightly. I pulled my shirt tighter and drove through the drizzle toward North Prospect Avenue. There was a popular little diner there. Since it was a holiday weekend, plenty of tourists were already there, eager to experience Rivorton's famous local breakfast scene. As soon as I got out of my car, I spotted Sarah in the crowd, and next to her, Ethan Vance, eating a bowl of soup. I walked straight inside, ordered a coffee from the owner, and sat down at their table. "Daniel, what are you doing here?" Sarah's eyes went wide when she saw me, clearly flustered at being caught in her lie. "Let me explain. I was on my way to the office for that overtime, but I had no interest in hearing her excuses. I just raised a hand to cut her off, my face a blank mask. Just eat." The three of us ate the rest of our breakfast in silence. Ethan finished quickly, but Sarah, lost in thought, barely touched her food. The silence must have unnerved her, because she started talking again, rushing the words out. "Daniel, the truth is, Ethan was finally visiting Rivorton, so I wanted to show him around. I didn't tell you because I was afraid you'd get the wrong idea. In the original timeline, Ethan was in Rivorton for a trip, which included attending a charity auction tonight. He dies in a freak car accident on his way home from that auction. In the previous 1,762 loops, Sarah tried everything she could think of, but she could never stop Ethan from going to that auction. If she keeps trying the same things, it won't matter how many more times she loops. The result will be the same. I put down my fork, wiped my mouth with a napkin, and slowly stood up, looking at the two of them. I ignored Sarah's words and locked eyes with Ethan. Then I clenched my fist and drove it straight into his face. Thwack! I put all my strength into the punch. The heavy, sickening sound turned every head in the diner. Dozens of eyes were suddenly fixed on us. Ethan stumbled back, clearly shocked that I would just attack him out of nowhere. Sarah was frozen too, staring at me in disbelief. But I didn't hesitate. I lunged forward and slammed my foot into his chest. The force of the kick sent Ethan flying backward until he crashed into the wall with another loud thud. Sarah finally snapped out of it and threw herself in front of Ethan. "Stop it, Daniel. What are you doing? I'm beating him up. Is that not obvious?" I yanked her aside and landed another kick. Ethan grunted in pain, collapsing to the floor and gasping for air. This time, Sarah used all her strength to shove me away, her eyes blazing with fury. "That's enough. Stop acting like a complete psycho." I laughed coldly to myself. A psycho? If I am a psycho, it's because her thousands of time loops drove me insane. Sarah is my wife, yet she throws everything away for another man. And I, for 1,763 identical days, have been forced to watch her run to him over and over again. "Move," I said, my voice like ice, colder than the morning rain. This time, Sarah refused to budge, shielding Ethan with her body. The look she gave me was filled with pure hatred. "I won't let you hurt him again. You don't understand anything. You have no idea what's about to happen to him." I knew she was talking about Ethan dying tonight. What she didn't know was that my own soul had been tortured to the point of despair by these endless repetitions. She might feel the pain of her powerlessness with each failure, but what about me? With every loop, I fall deeper into a bottomless abyss of my own. At least she still has a sliver of hope to cling to. What do I have left but despair? Ethan was clutching his chest, his face twisted in agony. My kicks had been brutal. For a moment, I had even considered killing him right then and there. "Ethan, are you okay? Are you hurt?" Sarah's voice was filled with anguish. Forgetting all about me, she knelt to check on his injuries. Seeing them together like that sent a sharp, twisting pain through my chest, a heart I thought had long since stopped feeling anything. The pain tore at my nerves, but it was nothing new. My heart had already been ripped to shreds over 1,000 times before. Sarah called an ambulance. As she helped Ethan into it, she glanced back at me, her eyes filled with ice and a profound, burning hatred. After they were gone, I watched the ambulance drive away until it disappeared, my composure finally returning. It seemed my sudden violence had altered the timeline. If Ethan was hospitalized, he wouldn't be able to attend the charity auction tonight, but that wasn't a guarantee. Even the smallest possibility had to be stamped out. I didn't care if Ethan lived or died, but I refused to continue struggling in this endless abyss with Sarah. After leaving the diner, I drove to my office. It was Memorial Day weekend, so the entire company was on holiday and the office was deserted. "Mr. Miller? What are you doing here?" A young woman carrying a stack of files walked out of the records room, her face a mask of surprise as she ran into me. She was my secretary, Chloe Davis, a complete workaholic in my opinion. "Just here to take care of something. Why aren't you taking the day off?" I asked, the words coming out mechanically. I had asked her the same question 1,000 times before, and I already knew her answer. The flights home were all booked, and I was bored, so I figured I'd get some work done. Chloe said with a sweet smile. "Mr. Miller, is there something urgent? Do you need my help?" I nodded and led her into my office. "I need you to go to the hospital right now. Find a patient named Ethan Vance and keep an eye on him. Do whatever it takes to make sure he stays in that hospital tonight." I took out a credit card and handed it to her. "Use this to make it happen. I don't care what it costs. I just want results." Chloe was a competent secretary. She didn't ask why, just took the card and left the office. With her watching Ethan, she could call me immediately if anything unexpected happened. Alone in my office, I turned on my computer and started gathering information about tonight's charity auction. Ethan died on his way home from this auction. If I could get him to skip it entirely, maybe the accident could be avoided. Just then, my phone rang. It was Sarah. I had no desire to talk to her, so I declined the call. But Sarah was persistent and called right back. The shrill ringing in the empty office grated on my nerves. What? I answered, my tone sharp. I felt nothing for this woman anymore. After this was all over, I was going to file for divorce. As expected, Sarah was calling to chew me out. Daniel, I am so disappointed in you. And, I replied, feeling nothing at all. Her disappointment meant nothing to me anymore. I had long since run out of patience for her. And, do you have any idea how hard you hit him? Ethan is in the hospital because of you. The moment Ethan got hurt, she seemed to forget her entire reason for being here. I let out a cold laugh, deciding to drop the pretense. Sarah, are you just naive? Or are you genuinely stupid? Haven't you figured it out yet? I hit him to change the timeline. The other end of the line went completely silent. But I knew Sarah was still there. I could hear her breathing quicken. Daniel, you know? Her voice was laced with disbelief. In her mind, she was probably the only one looping. I was just another background character, an NPC in her game. I clenched my fists so hard my knuckles turned white, my teeth grinding together. You have looped time 1,763 times to save him, and I have been right here with you for every single one, watching you throw yourself at him again and again. Sarah, can you even begin to imagine how that feels? On the other end, Sarah was speechless. It was something that had never occurred to her. All this time, she thought she was the only one looping, that I, like everyone else, would have no memory of any of it. But my words had clearly sent a shockwave through her world. After a long pause, her tone was no longer harsh, but soft and pleading. Daniel, can you help me? Then? Ethan is so young. I just can't bear to watch him die like this. I cut her off before she could finish. Whether he lives or dies is none of my business, and I don't care. I just want to escape this endless torture. If you don't want the same result as the last 1,762 times, you'll listen to me. Without waiting for a reply, I hung up. A fire was raging inside me, and I desperately needed an outlet. Over 1,000 repetitions had pushed my mind to the breaking point. The cruelest part was that the architect of my suffering was the woman I loved most. I fought back the urge to destroy everything in my office, lighting a cigarette and leaning back in my chair, my chest still heaving with suppressed rage. A sudden, baseless wave of revulsion washed over me. Everything familiar in this office felt like the bars of a cage. I just wanted to escape. Even if I couldn't escape this prison of time, I needed to get away from this place. I left the office and drove out into the city's dense traffic. A short while later, I parked next to Riverton University. It was my alma mater, the place where Sarah and I first met and fell in love. I don't know why I drove here. Maybe it was one of the few places left that still held good memories. I walked to the main gate but was stopped by a security guard. I had to laugh. They always say your alma mater welcomes you back, but in reality you can't even set foot on campus after you graduate. So I just squatted by the gate, smoking and trying to figure out a way to break this time loop. It wasn't really a predicament. It was Sarah's selfish obsession, but it had trapped me all the same. To get out of it, I had no choice but to temporarily align with her to deal with the Ethan problem. Just then, my phone buzzed with an iMessage. It was from Sarah. Where are you? Can we meet and talk? Honestly, I didn't want to talk to her at all, but for the sake of my own freedom, I agreed. I sent her my location and went back to my cigarette. 20 minutes later, Sarah showed up. She was holding an umbrella, and her face looked drawn and tired. Her expression softened as she looked at the university campus behind me, but I had no interest in sentimentality. So, what did you want to talk about? Seeing that my former warmth and affection were gone, Sarah's face fell. About the time loops, I'm sorry. I truly am. But I didn't have a choice. You're just feeling tired and hurt by the repetition. But Ethan is losing his life. I need you to understand that. Even if I can never save him, I would let time repeat forever, just so I can still see him alive and standing in front of me. I waved her words away. I can't understand that, and I won't tolerate it. To be blunt, you're just being selfish. Sarah looked at me, her face a mask of pain. Selfish? Do you think looping time is easy? Do you have any idea what it costs me? My life force is draining away. I'm burning through my own lifespan to do this. I crushed out my cigarette and looked at her through the dissipating smoke. No one is forcing you to do this. But what gives you the right to drag the entire world into your personal regret, trapping everyone in this single day forever? They might not remember it. They might wake up thinking every day is new, but their souls are still being ground down by this endless repetition. On this one day, people are being born, growing old, getting sick and dying. What gives you the right to trap them in that moment of pain, forcing them to endure it over and over again? At my words, Sarah fell silent, and tears began to stream down her face. She stared at me, her eyes red. Then what am I supposed to do? Just stand by and watch Ethan die? I can't. I really can't do that. I lit another cigarette and took a long drag. I'll help you this time, but only this time. After it's over, I'm leaving. Since you feel so strongly about Ethan, it only makes sense for you to be with him. Sarah panicked. No, it's not like that. I never wanted to be with Ethan. I love you. I shook my head and put out the half-smoked cigarette. But I don't love you anymore. With that, I stood up and walked away without looking back. Daniel, don't go. Sarah cried, rushing after me, her eyes now redder than before. She grabbed my arm, her voice breaking into a sob. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I never meant to hurt you. I thought you wouldn't remember anything. I just wanted to fix this quietly, and then we could be together again. I stopped in my tracks and suddenly laughed. You wanted to be some unsung hero, and you were willing to drag the whole world down with you to do it. How noble. Sarah, we're done. It's over. I pulled my arm free. The umbrella fell from her grasp, caught by the wind, and tumbled away down the street. The rain seemed to pick up. Her sobs were slowly drowned out by the sound of the downpour. In my memory, this rain had been falling for 1,763 days. If tomorrow ever comes, I wonder if the rain will stop. The ringing of my phone pulled me back to reality. It was Chloe. Chloe, what is it? Chloe's voice on the other end was frantic. Mr. Miller, Ethan Vance is gone. They've searched the entire hospital. None of the doctors or nurses know where he went. She sounded panicked, probably blaming herself for failing the task I'd given her. I frowned, but I wasn't surprised. His injuries weren't severe enough to keep him down for long. A simple beating was never going to be enough to stop him. I reassured Chloe, told her she did a great job and that I would handle it from here, then hung up. In the rain, I turned and looked back at Sarah, who was now crouched on the sidewalk, her face buried in her hands, sobbing. My chest tightened with a suffocating pressure. I had loved this woman for so long. Her every mood used to dictate my own. Even now, with all the love gone, I still felt a pang of pity. But she had brought all of this on herself. I would hurt, I would struggle, and I would probably spend a long time agonizing over this breakup. But I would never regret it. Stop crying, I said, walking back to her, my voice cold in the drizzle. Your precious boyfriend ran off. Ethan? Sarah ignored my sarcastic tone and looked up at me, stunned. Her face streaked with what might have been tears or rain. I nodded. But it's not a total disaster. We know for a fact that, according to schedule, he doesn't die until 11:35 p.m. He's safe until then. Sarah wiped her eyes and scrambled to her feet. The auction. He's definitely going to the auction tonight. In every one of the previous 1,000 loops, Ethan attended that charity auction without fail. That part of the timeline was crystal clear. There's a question we've both been ignoring. Why is Ethan so obsessed with attending this specific auction? I frowned, thinking about it seriously. Sarah opened her mouth to speak, but her expression was blank. In all her previous attempts, her thinking had been too superficial. She was so focused on blindly stopping Ethan from being on that specific road at 11:35 p.m. that she never stopped to ask why he was so determined to be there in the first place. I had never thought about it either, just chalking it up to the fixed nature of the timeline. But now, even after I'd beaten him badly enough to be hospitalized, he still stubbornly checked himself out. This auction had to be incredibly important to him. It was probably the entire reason he came to Riverton. We should find Ethan. He doesn't know Riverton very well. I'm worried he might. Sarah trailed off, glancing at me guiltily. Her concern for him was clearly instinctual, and she only realized how inappropriate it sounded after the words were already out. But I didn't care anymore. When you've completely fallen out of love with someone, things like that no longer have the power to hurt you. I have a pretty good idea where he went. With that, I turned and walked toward my car. Seeing my lack of reaction, Sarah looked disappointed. Maybe my anger never made her feel guilty, but my uncharacteristic indifference was finally getting under her skin. She hurried to catch up and slid cautiously into the passenger seat. The seat had always been hers, but now she acted like a stranger in it. The irony was not lost on me. I started the car and drove away from the place that held so many of our best memories, and I didn't look back. It's been so long since I've seen a sunny day in Riverton, Sarah said, staring out the window. I couldn't tell if she was being wistful or just sad. For over 1,000 identical days, this same dreary rain had never once let up. Daniel, do you remember? Sarah suddenly turned to me, her eyes filled with nostalgia. You used to pick me up from work every day. If it was raining, you'd come all the way from home just to wait with me in the rain for a cab. It was always impossible to get one during rush hour, and we'd be shivering in the wind, and you would hold me to keep me warm. You know, Daniel, we had just graduated back then. We didn't have any money, but we were so happy. I kept my eyes on the road, but my mind drifted back, carried away by the flow of traffic. Scene after scene from our past flashed through my mind like a movie reel. I remembered how gentle and caring she used to be. She'd wake up in the middle of the night to pull the blanket over me. She'd wipe a smudge from the corner of my mouth after a meal. She'd sit with me in silence when I was feeling down. Time had washed away the bonds between us, but it couldn't erase the proof that we had once been in love. And the funny thing is, here we are, reminiscing about the past while we're on our way to chase after another man. My cold reply shattered the warm memories, and they vanished like smoke in the cold wind whistling through the cracked window. A long, heavy silence filled the car. Sarah lowered her head. I couldn't see her face, but I could hear the sob in her voice. Daniel, I miss who we were. I never wanted to leave you. I just wanted to save Ethan as a friend. Can you understand that? I was silent for a long time before answering in the calmest voice I could manage. I can try to understand, but I can't forgive you. Sarah, love is selfish. Sarah turned to look out the window again. I couldn't hear her crying, but I could see her shoulders shaking. I pulled up in front of the Galleria. When I'd beaten Ethan up, I'd ruined his expensive suit. If he was still planning on attending a charity auction, he'd need a new one. This was the closest high-end mall to the hospital. As I was getting out of the car, Sarah grabbed my arm, a hesitant look on her face. After all these years, I could still read her like a book. Are you afraid I'm going to hit him again? I asked, my expression calm. Sarah looked embarrassed, but she nodded. It's not right to hit people. You never used to be violent. I shot back. And you never used to be so passionate about other men. She lowered her head and said nothing. I had no desire to argue about it further, so I just walked into the mall. We finally found Ethan in a high-end designer store. He was inside picking out a suit. Aside from the bruise under his eye where I'd punched him, he looked fine. I couldn't help but wonder if I should have hit him harder, or maybe just broken his leg. That would have kept him in the hospital. But there was no way to know for sure. If he was determined enough, he'd probably just pay someone to will him into the auction. Sarah and I walked into the store. The moment Ethan saw me, his expression changed and he took a few steps back, clearly still wary of me after what happened this morning. Sarah rushed over to him. Ethan, you can't go to the auction tonight. She was clearly anxious, her words blunt and direct. As the day wore on, her desperation was growing. Ethan glanced at me warily before asking her, "Why not?" Sarah stared him straight in the eye. "Because if you go, you're going to die." I had to stop myself from rolling my eyes. The woman was an idiot, or maybe just desperate. No wonder she'd failed over 1,000 times. Ethan stared at her for a moment, then laughed. "Don't be ridiculous. As long as he stays away from me, I think I'll be perfectly safe." He shot me a dirty look. I stepped forward. "You insist on going to this auction even after getting beaten badly enough to be hospitalized. You don't strike me as the charitable type." Ethan frowned and sneered. "Is there something wrong with being charitable? Not everyone is a crude, violent thug like you." His voice was dripping with contempt, but I didn't let it get to me. He was a dead man walking, after all. But his reaction told me something important. This auction wasn't as simple as it seemed. A guy like Ethan wasn't here for charity. The only way to find out why he was so determined to go was to go there myself. I had what I needed, so I had no reason to stay. I turned and left without another word. Ethan went back to looking at suits, but Sarah was clearly conflicted. She looked from me to Ethan, then back again, before finally gritting her teeth and following me out of the store. "Daniel, have you figured out a way to save him?" Sarah asked, trailing behind me. I didn't answer her directly. Instead, I asked coldly, "Shouldn't you be in there with him? Why are you following me?" Sarah pouted, looking hurt. "Why are you being so mean to me?" I stopped and turned to face her. "In the last 1,762 loops, you had plenty of cold words for me while you were trying to save Ethan. Now that I'm treating you the same way, you can't handle it." Sarah bit her lip and reached for my hand. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. It's just, with everything happening with Ethan, I was so stressed, and I took it out on you." I pulled my hand away. "You didn't mean it? The truth is you thought I wouldn't remember any of it, so my feelings didn't matter, right?" Sarah hung her head and said nothing. I went on. "The fact is, I've been enduring your emotional abuse for 1,763 days. Do you know how long that is? It's almost 5 years. For 5 years, I've been in constant pain. When other people fall out of love, they can get a divorce, they can leave. But me, I'm stuck here, repeating the same day, suffering in this endless abyss, over and over again. Sarah's eyes welled up with tears again, and she threw her arms around me. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Daniel. I didn't know. If I had known how much you were hurting, I would have what? Pushed her away. You can't even say it. Because you would never give up on Ethan, no matter how I felt. You couldn't do it. After that, I ignored her and walked out of the mall. In the reflection of the glass doors, I could see Sarah standing frozen in place, watching me go, an expression of loneliness and regret on her face that I had never seen before. But I just kept walking, got in my car, and drove away. Evening came and the sun began to set. I leaned against my car, lit a cigarette, and studied the building in front of me through the haze of smoke. It was a lavishly decorated private club, the venue for tonight's charity auction. Luxury cars were already pulling up to the entrance, where 2 lines of security guards were checking guests' IDs and invitations. It was a members-only event. No invitation, no entry. I didn't have an invitation, of course, but that didn't mean I couldn't get in. I'd cased this place in a few of the earlier loops and had already found a way in. A delivery truck was slowly pulling up to the service entrance. I put out my cigarette and followed it. 10 minutes later, I was walking down one of the club's ornate hallways. Just then, a man and a woman appeared at the other end of the hall. My face hardened, and I was about to turn and leave when she called out to me. Daniel! Sarah looked surprised to see me. She grabbed Ethan's arm and hurried toward me. She looked me up and down. How did you get in here? I shrugged. I don't think I need to report my movements to you. Sarah gave an awkward laugh. Well, since you're here, we might as well stick together. She tugged on my sleeve and lowered her voice. If we both keep an eye on Ethan, we can make sure nothing happens to him. That's your job, not mine, I said, then glanced at Ethan with a sneer. Besides, I'm sure this great philanthropist wouldn't want to be seen with a brute like me. Ethan snorted, crossing his arms and looking down his nose at me. Of course not. A place like this isn't for thugs. I won't bother reporting you to security, but you should know your place. His words dripped with arrogance, as if his magnanimity in not reporting me somehow made him a better person. Sarah looked even more embarrassed. She whispered to me, just be careful, okay? And call me if you find anything. I didn't answer, just turned and walked away down the hall. After leaving them, I grabbed a cocktail from a passing waiter and began exploring the club. The auction hadn't started yet, but I'd already seen several of Riverton's most powerful business leaders arrive. I didn't see any of them in the main hall, which meant they had to be meeting somewhere more private. As I was searching, I found a hidden stairwell. I tried the door, but it was locked. I waited around the corner for a few minutes, and soon enough, a well-dressed, important-looking man walked up to the door. He took out a key card and swiped it. The door beeped and unlocked. As he went inside, I slipped in behind him, catching the door before it could close. I waited until he was gone, then pushed the door open and went inside. A flight of stairs led down into a basement. I crept down quietly, and what I saw at the bottom shocked me. It was a hidden basement, but it was far more luxurious than the club upstairs. Several men in expensive suits were sitting on a sofa in the middle of the room, surrounded by a line of beautiful, slender women. It was a shocking scene. I never would have guessed something like this was hidden beneath the club. Is this place secure? One of the men asked. Of course, another replied. These women have all been carefully vetted. They know how to keep their mouths shut. I'm not talking about the women. I'm talking about this charity auction of yours. We're putting a lot of money in. Are you sure you can get it back to us clean? My eyes widened, and I clapped a hand over my mouth to keep from gasping. I understood immediately. This auction was far more than it seemed. It was a front, a way for these men to launder their money. Ethan must have known about this. He was probably one of the participants. I quickly pulled out my phone and took a few pictures, then started recording a video for evidence. These were some of the most powerful men in Riverton. If this got out, it would cause a massive scandal. I listened for a little longer, then a few of the men got up to leave. I ducked into the shadows to hide. After they were gone, I was about to leave myself when I overheard something that made my blood run cold. Once that money is in my pocket, it's not coming out. After the auction, I want you to find someone to take care of them. All of them. And make it clean. My breath caught in my throat, and my hand holding the phone started to shake. I finally understood how Ethan died. It wasn't just him. Every single person involved in this scheme was going to be killed off one by one. I stayed hidden in the darkness for a long time before I finally, carefully, slipped away. Even after the heavy door clicked shut behind me, my heart was still pounding. I didn't waste any time. I hurried out of the club and back to my car, where I finally started to calm down. I immediately called the police and sent them the evidence I had recorded. 10 minutes later, police sirens filled the air as squad cars surrounded the club. Before long, I saw the men from the basement being led out in handcuffs. "Ethan!" Sarah cried, running out of the main entrance, her face a mixture of emotions. I hadn't noticed until then that Ethan was one of the men being arrested. He must have been in on it too. He was alive, but now he was facing a long prison sentence. I wasn't sure if, for Sarah, that was a better or worse outcome. I lit a cigarette and watched the light rain falling outside. It wasn't a heavy rain, but it felt oppressive. Tap, tap, tap. Someone was knocking on my window. I turned and saw it was Sarah. I unlocked the door and she got in. Her face was pale. She was clearly in shock. Getting arrested is what he deserves. It's better than being dead. I cracked the window to let the smoke out and looked at her. "You're not going to loop back again, are you?" Try to convince him not to come. That was my biggest fear. If Ethan didn't attend the auction, he wouldn't get arrested. If Sarah was determined enough, she could try another 1,000 times and maybe, just maybe, find that perfect outcome. But Sarah just shook her head. He got what he deserved. I'm not going to use my power to help him escape justice. I nodded. Good. Then this is finally over. I turned and looked out the window again. Maybe tomorrow, the rain will finally stop. Sarah was suddenly looking at me. "Daniel, I'm done with Ethan. For good." "Okay, that's your choice. It has nothing to do with me," I said, my voice flat. Sarah gave a bitter smile. "I was so wrong about so many things. Can you ever forgive me?" "I can forgive you," I said, meeting her eyes. A flicker of hope appeared on her face, and I continued. "But that doesn't change the fact that we're over. Forgiveness means letting go. If I spend the rest of my life hating you, I'm not punishing you, I'm punishing myself. Sarah, there's no future for us. Let this rain that has fallen for 1,763 days, be the end of our marriage." I opened the car door and got out. "You can have the car." Then I turned and walked away. On the horizon, the clouds were beginning to part, and the rain was tapering off to a drizzle. The rain was finally stopping. When I opened my eyes again, I was lying on a grassy field, surrounded by the sounds of laughter and shouting. I sat up, confused. I was on a soccer field, surrounded by a running track. "Daniel, are you going to play or what? You can't just take a nap in the middle of the game." A young man walked over and playfully punched my arm. He was my college roommate. What was his name again? I was completely stunned. I had no idea what was happening. Was I dreaming? I reached out and pinched his arm. "Ow! Hey, that hurts!" he yelled, shoving me to the ground and sitting on my chest. "You want to pinch me? I'll show you." He started tickling my ribs and under my arms. The tickling was all too real. This wasn't a dream. I was back in college. "Daniel!" A clear, bright female voice called out from across the field. My roommate glanced over, then pulled me to my feet and pointed. "Hey, look, Sarah. She's looking for you." I frowned and looked where he was pointing. It was Sarah, or rather, a 20-year-old Sarah, wearing a white sundress and walking toward me, her hands behind her back. "Daniel, I like you." Sarah suddenly revealed the bouquet of flowers she'd been hiding behind her back. The entire field erupted in cheers and whistles. A public confession was always a big deal on campus, especially when it was a girl asking out a guy. My roommate grabbed my arm, practically vibrating with excitement. "Dude, holy crap. Sarah is asking you out. You're the man. Say yes. Say yes. Say yes. Say yes." The crowd of onlookers started chanting, all of them grinning at us. Sarah looked at me, her expression earnest and sincere. But I knew, this was just another one of her tricks, bringing me back to this perfect moment from our past, hoping it would be enough to mend our shattered love. Under the expectant gaze of the entire crowd, I pushed the flowers away. "Sorry," I said, my voice serious. "I've got bigger things to worry about than dating right now." My words plunged the cheering crowd into a dead silence. The smile on Sarah's face froze. My roommate stared at me, his eyes wide. "Dude, I never knew you could be so dramatic." I just threw an arm around his shoulders. "Come on, let's play."